Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will be creating a Thanksgiving themed data analyst project using Power BI along with a little bit of Excel. I'm currently recording this Saturday before Thanksgiving, and I'll be posting this sometime during the week of Thanksgiving, so I thought what better to do than create a Thanksgiving themed data analyst project. I found some really fun data online, and I don't know if this is the kind of project that you'll want to put in your portfolio, but I definitely think you can use this project to help you get some experience using Power BI along with a little bit of Microsoft Excel. And with all of that said, let's just jump right in without any further ado. As you can see, we have a ton of Thanksgiving data. I found this data set online. The original website that I found that had this data, you had to pay for it, but after I searched around a little bit online, I was able to find somebody that stored this same data set in a repository on GitHub. So if you want to play around and build along with me, I have that repository linked below in the description. And on the chance that that repository ever gets taken down, I have a copy saved in my computer, so it'll be shared in some form in the description. All I've done to this data set so far is copy and paste it into an Excel. It was in a CSV, so I just wanted to get it into an Excel file. And then beyond that, I haven't done anything with it. I haven't cleaned the data any because I wanted to bring you along for every part of the process. So with that said, let's dig into this data and see what we have. If we come and click on this first row, we can come down here to the count and we can see that we have 65 columns of data. We have the respondent ID, do you celebrate Thanksgiving? What is typically the main dish at your Thanksgiving dinner? What is typically the main dish at your Thanksgiving dinner? Other, please specify. So we'll probably deal with that a little bit in a few minutes. And then if you come over here, we'll find we have a lot of very similar columns that are basically, do you have this side dish at your Thanksgiving? And there are literally like dozens just like this. And if we scroll even further to the end, we'll find that there are, okay, here. We'll find that there is kind of the same thing, but with pie. So we have a lot of great data here about what side dishes people prefer at their Thanksgiving, what desserts they prefer, what they prefer as their main dish. And then if we keep scrolling, and sorry to give you whiplash a little bit, we will find some other data. Let's just skip there right now. And then here we find a little bit of different data, including do you pray before or after your Thanksgiving meal? How far will you travel for Thanksgiving? Will you watch any of the following programs on Thanksgiving? What is the age cutoff at the kids' table on Thanksgiving? And more data. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff we can get into. So let's start digging around and maybe start cleaning this up a little bit. The first thing I want to do is combine these two columns together that have all of our main dish information. So I'm just going to right click on this column and insert another column here. And I just want it to pull in this column's data where it says other, please specify. I would just rather have that all in one column. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and you'll see why in just a second. Let's call this column main dish. And then I'm going to insert an if statement or an if formula. So we'll do if, or let's see how many times I can trip over myself. If this column equals, and then we want to put this in double quotes, other please specify. So if it equals that, the value if true, I want to pull in whatever is in this column. And then if the value is false, I'll just pull in what is already here available. So if we hit enter, this pulled in turkey, which is correct. Let's go ahead and pull this down a little bit and see how this works. And it works just how we planned. So now it pulls in this, where it says other please specify, it pulls in what is in this column. And that is terrific. So I will just double click this corner right here. And that will bring it all down. The one thing I don't really love is that it is populating zeros where there is no entry. And I'm just going to replace these with nulls because in Power BI, it knows not to count null values. So I'm just going to insert nulls right here. And hopefully that works. Usually whenever I'm working with null values, they are pulled in from a SQL database. So we'll see if that works just typing them in ourselves. As we can see right here, there is another similar situation with how is the main dish typically cooked. But at least for now, I think I'm going to leave this be. I was more interested with the main dish data, so I'm not going to mess with this. And once again, we have other instances of this. And again, where there aren't that many other values, I would just rather not deal with that. I don't think I'm going to focus on the stuffing/dressing type in our dashboard. So I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to skip over here because this is somewhere where I'm going to do a bit of manual work. As we can see, we have like 30 columns or more of these huge long columns, and they really have the interesting data at the end. So for all of the data here, I'm going to take out this part because I know what this means, and I'm going to make this equal side dish dash Brussels sprouts. So I'm just going to change this name here. Once we jump over to Power BI, this will make things so much simpler, not having a paragraph for every column name. So I'm going to go ahead and skip through. You all can do the same thing if you want, if you're following along, but I'm going to go through all of these different columns for side dishes and desserts and format them just like I did this column in. Okay, after 5 or 10 minutes of boring manual work, changing all of the different names of these columns, we now have the side dishes with a much shorter column name. If we scroll over a little bit more, I did the same thing to pie. And then for whatever reason, I guess pie doesn't count as a dessert, so we also have separate dessert columns that pull in, I guess, for people that have desserts that are not pie. Okay, the last thing that I want to do before jumping over into Power BI is look at these last columns and see if I need to do any work on these. This one is yes or no. That is helpful. This one, I think this one is fine. If I need to do any formatting of those answers, I should be able to do it in Power BI. If not, I will just come back into Excel and then re-upload it to Power BI. So I guess we'll see in the future if I had to do that. Looking at a little bit more of these. And I think everything is exactly how I want it to be. So my ideas for this Power BI, I think I'm going to create 2 separate pages of the Power BI. The first one, I'm going to focus on food, so see what kind of main dishes people prefer, see what side dishes, what pies. And then for the second one, I actually think it would be really interesting to look at these different age groups and see how they differ among different things like, have you ever attended a Friendsgiving? For me, that definitely seems like a younger person thing. So that's what I'm personally interested in. But if you're building along and you want to do something different, that is completely up to you. I highly encourage creativity. But if you're just following along with me, that's what we're going to do in this. Now that we've done all of that formatting work in Microsoft Excel, we are just going to import from an Excel workbook. And if I scroll down here just a little bit, I will find this Thanksgiving Excel because it is in my recents, which makes sense because I recently used it. And then if I had multiple Excel pages, they would all pull in right here. If you ever import data into a Power BI, you do not need to import every single sheet. And you definitely shouldn't import every single sheet unless you're going to use every single sheet. So once we click on the sheet that we are pulling in, we'll see a little preview of this data. If we want to go do additional work on the data, we could always click this Transform Data button, but I know it's exactly how I want it to be. I've done this enough times, so I'm just going to go ahead and load it in here. Okay, cool. If anybody is brand new to Power BI, this space right here is where we will be building our actual report. This filter page is if we want to put specific filters on the page or if we want to put them on specific visuals. So we'll look into that a little bit later if we need to. This visualizations pane, this is how we'll create our different charts and format the charts how we'd like. And then this data pane on the far right, this is where we have all of our data. And as you can see, it has all of our column names right here. And this is exactly the reason why I wanted to shorten all of those column names before, because if not, I would not be able to read them. But since I shortened them, it's very easy to see all of them at the same time. And since I put side dish at the beginning, it sorts all of these alphabetically. So it puts all of the different side dishes right here together. The one annoying thing about Power BI is the more of these panes that you have out at one time, the smaller your workspace is. So as we're building, I will definitely try to close whichever panes that I am not using, but apologies if it gets a little bit small at certain times, but I'll try to break every once in a while and close all of these so we can get a better look at what we're doing. And everything that I'm about to do is how I would go about it if I was building a Power BI at work. There may be better ways to do things, there may be other ways to do things, but this is just how I do things. And again, I haven't already built this report before. This is my first time playing around with this data, so I'll encounter issues for the first time along with you and then just figure them out as we go. Okay, my first couple of things I'm going to do. First, I'm going to go ahead and rename this sheet, and since I'm going to focus on food here, I'm going to call this sheet Food Analysis. Cool, I had to make sure that I spelled that right. And then next, for the way that I like formatting my Power BIs, you definitely don't have to do this. This is just my style. I like to come here to the canvas background, and I like to choose a slightly darker color of gray and then turn down the transparency all the way. And once we start building, you'll see a little bit more about why I build it like this. But again, this is just my style. If you watch other Power BI courses or YouTube videos, you'll find everybody has their own style for doing this. All right, the next thing I want to do is I like putting a title of some sort at the top of my page. So I'm going to come over here to Insert, and then I'm going to insert a text box. And then I am going to shape this text box how I want it. I'm going to use up the whole top of the screen. Let's click into it, and let's see, it's very small for right now, so let's make this a good bit bigger and then we'll fix it however we need. Now I'm going to just type Thanksgiving Food Analysis. And now that we see how much space that takes up, I'm just going to play around with the sizes until I get what I want with this. Okay, that's a little bit too big because I see this scroller bar right here. So 36 is about what I want, and I honestly probably bold things way too much, but I like how it looks on here, so I'm gonna bold that, and let's see, I'll also center it. We like some good centering. Okay, now it's finally time to jump into the data and build our first visualization. I'm gonna come down here and I'm gonna be using the main dish column. I think one of the most important things about your Thanksgiving dinner is whether you have turkey or ham or one of the other options listed. So we're going to be breaking that down, and my go-to always, until I'm forced otherwise, is to go with this clustered column chart. Depending on what you're looking for, if you're wanting more percentages, so if we wanted to know the percentage of people that chose turkey and the percentage that didn't, we could always switch to this stacked column chart. Sometimes there's good use cases for pie charts and donut charts, usually if you just have 2 or 3 things that you're separating and looking at. But for this one, I am just going to be using this bar chart, at least for now, and I can always change that if I need to. And for right now, let's make it a bit bigger so we can see it, and then we'll format it a bit here in a second. So what I'm going to do is I want to have all of the different main dishes across this horizontal line, and then I want a count of people that said they had that dish here along the vertical axis. So to do that, I'm going to pull this main dish to the x-axis, because the x-axis is the one that goes from left to right, and then I want to count the, let's see where it is, the respondent ID, because there's a respondent ID for every single person that was in the survey. So we are going to be using that for our counts. And as we can see, there are a whole lot of different answers that people put. So this is going to give us a good chance to go ahead and check out this filters pane. So when we're looking at this filters pane, we have many different options for how we can filter our data. We could come in here and just manually choose whichever of these that we want to, or there are a couple of other options, including advanced filtering and top in. And for this one, I think I'm just going to include the top 5 answers, because a lot of these others are about the same and hardly anyone put those, whereas these first 5 or so look like they take up most of the population or the sample. Statistics nerds are going to yell at me after this one. So I'm looking at the top 5 dishes because most of our sample chose one of these top 5. So we're going to choose top 5, and then let's come over here, and again, sometimes I just have to play around with things. I think I need to put main dish here. Let's see if that worked. And no, that did not work. So let's exit out of that. And I know now I need to put the respondent ID so we get a top 5 count. And actually, I don't like that null is one of the biggest, so I'm actually going to do something totally different with this. So let's scratch that. I am going to exit out of this chart and I'm going to come back up here to main dish and I'm going to do something completely new. I am going to create a new group and you'll see exactly how I'm doing this. So I am going to create a different group for each of these biggest options. So our first option that we have up here, so the most popular one is turkey. So I'm going to group turkey right here and we'll see in a minute how this works. The second one, it's in really small letters, but it is ham/pork. So I'm going to group that. And then the last two that are also very popular are tofurkey, which we'll group, along with, I already forgot it, chicken. So let's group that. And then I'm going to click this include others group. So that will group everything else together under this others tab and click OK. And you're about to be really impressed with this. So let's go ahead and get rid of this by clicking that little eraser. I'm going to get rid of this main dish that we were separating by, and instead I'm going to add this main dish groups. And as we can see, this put turkey by itself, ham/pork, tofurkey, and chicken together along with this other column, and that looks a lot better to me. And now that we've done this, we'll be able to start formatting this a little bit better. So let's start getting into that. So to format our visualizations, we'll just come over here to this middle button right here. And first I'm going to add a title to this, which is right here. And we will just call this main dish choice. Put it like that. Again, I'm going to make this bold. I'm going to center it. Let's make this much bigger, especially for once we make this a little bit smaller. We may need to play with this a little bit later, but I like how that is looking. So we did that, and now if we come back over here to visual, we can see this y-axis, and let's go ahead and change the name of this. I am going to change the title of the y-axis to count of respondents. And I was right the first time, it is spelled with an E. And then if I go ahead and close this, let's go ahead and close this right here. I will do the same thing for this X one, except I'm actually just going to turn off the title. I think it is pretty self-explanatory as is. Coming back to this x-axis though, these values are way too small. You can hardly read them, so I'm going to increase their size quite a bit. That's a little bit too big probably. That looks very good to me, and I'm going to do the same thing with the y-axis. So I'll click on y-axis and come over here to values. And that is already looking quite a bit better to me, a lot more readable. And then I also would like to see the counts of all of these without having to hover over each column. So I'm going to come to this data labels and turn it on. Let's go ahead and click on value, and I definitely want these bigger as well. And that looks a lot better to me already. And then the next thing that I like to do, and this kind of gets into why I decided to make the background gray, is I come over here to effects, and then I'm going to turn on this visual border. I'm going to make this color this third gray from the bottom, and I'm going to round all of the corners. And then I'm going to turn on shadow, and I'm going to make that the same gray third from the bottom. So whenever we pull this over, I won't really see where this will go until towards the end, but creating the formatting like that, I kind of like how it makes this graph pop, and it'll do the same to all of our other graphs. So I personally just really like how that looks. You can do the same thing if you want. You definitely don't have to, but I really like how that looks. And again, we'll play around with this a little bit more as we go. let's see, we'll throw it down here. I have an idea for something in a bit. Okay, cool. So that is our first data visualization. Except I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to come over here to these columns and I'm going to make them this orange color. I don't know why. This looks like a very Thanksgiving-y orange. So I'm going to change it to that orange just because I want to. All right, now that we've done this, something that I sometimes like to do until I need to change it is I will just copy this. So I'm going to just click on my data visualization that I just created, Control C to copy, and then click Control and V at the same time to paste. And I'm going to try that again because that did not work. And there we go. And now we have another graph that is formatted just like the first one we created. So that way it helps keep things standard and I don't have to do all of the same things I already did. So that saves me a lot of time. Okay, so for my next thing, I really want to dig into these side dishes. I think this is something people have a lot of opinions about. And to kind of play around with this, I'm going to add a table temporarily to this. And I'm just covering these up for right now. I just want to see how many people said each one of these. So let's put in these right here and see if this works. Okay, that doesn't work. So let's scrap that. And to delete that, all I did was click on the chart and then click the delete button on my keyboard. So instead, I'm going to remove this main dish groups and I'm going to remove this respondent ID because for this next one, we don't need both of these. I am going to just add all of these different side dishes right here. And I'm kind of doing a similar thing before. There's probably a better way to do this, but I just want to see the most whichever of these are the most popular, what I'm looking for. Okay, now that I've added all of these, again, this is just what I would do. There are better ways. I could always open up the Excel and do counts of these, but for what I'm looking at right now, it's just easier for me to do this. I want to just pull in the top 5 of these, and then I will leave all of the others out. So we have rolls and biscuits, green beans / green bean casserole. Let's see, come on, orange. Yams, sweet potato casserole, corn, and then it looks like our 5th are these carrots. So those are the ones that we're going to include. So let's see, let's get rid of Brussels. Let's go ahead and get rid of all of these for now. We got rolls and biscuits. Put that on the y-axis. Yams, sweet potatoes. Green beans / green bean casserole, corn, and then instead of whatever that last one was, I'm going to include macaroni and cheese here just because it's one of my favorites. So you can yell at me in the comments if I left your favorite out, but I have all of the most common ones, and then I know a lot of people are very passionate about mac and cheese, so I'm going to leave it as is like this. All right, let's close these filters for now, and let's close this data for now so we can see a little bit more. So here's another formatting problem we'll have often, and I may have to go back and change something else, but at least for this, right now it is literally putting count of side dish, rolls, biscuits, count of side dish, green beans, green bean casserole, and so on. But with how we're going to name this chart and how it's going to be presented, the fact that we're counting these is going to be obvious. So I'm going to change the name of all of these to just whatever the side dish is called. And to do that, all I have to do is double click on these. So I will just double click and then I'm going to delete all the way until, and this is, oh my word. At least this isn't going to be on YouTube or anything. And I'm just going to delete all of that and then hit enter, and then we'll just skip to whenever I figure out how to get all of these done. Okay, sweet. This is looking a lot better. One thing that I want to be sure to do right now is change this title. I'm going to make it side dish choice. And another fun thing that I think I'm going to do is come down here to these columns. And I'm going to change these one at a time, and I think I'm going to try to color coordinate these a little bit. So for rolls and biscuits, let's No, that does not look good. Okay, I think this is falling apart right before our eyes. Let's see. Let's come to something with an actual color. Okay, so mac and cheese. Let's come down here to this color wheel. Let's make this a nice yellow, maybe just a little bit darker so it's a little bit more visible. Okay, that looks good to me. And then yam, sweet potato casserole. I think that's actually good as that color. Green beans, green bean casserole. That is pretty self-explanatory. Let's pick a nice green for that. Oh, I'm really liking this. Corn, let's go with one of just this golden honestly works. It blends in a little bit is the only thing. Let's see. Okay, that at least separates it a little bit more. And then rolls slash biscuits. See, there really isn't a good color where I'm going to be just choosing the most basic thing ever in something that's hard to see. So I'm just going to make rolls slash biscuits. I'm just going to make this one blue. There really isn't a good answer for that. And rather than spending an hour on that, that's all I'm going to do. And if we see right here where it has all of the colors for each of these, this is our legend. And I'm really specific with how I like this aligned. And I'm not going to go to the title for that. It is right here. Let's see, top center. That looks really good. We have our data labels. We have count of respondents. Let's see here. Text. Okay, we're going to want this a bit bigger. We're going to get this as big as it can go right there. Let's make this count of respondents, maybe. Oh, wait, wrong one. Let's come down here to this y-axis title. I'm actually going to make that a little bit bigger on both of these just so it's nice and easy to read. The good thing about Power BI is whenever you're doing something on one chart and you click on the other, it automatically takes you to the same setting. So that's really nice when you're trying to do the same thing to a lot of different charts. And something else I like to do, if I am working with two charts and I want them to be the same size, I will just align them in one corner and then pull them together where they are roughly equal in size. And there we go. This is a nice start to this. Let me see. I might play around. Do I want it? No, that is ugly. Ooh, and that's the thing you kind of have to look for is it kind of smushed all of these together, and I do not like that. Let's see, let's get this the same size, and I'm going to play around a little bit more with the formatting and get it where this is looking a bit better. Okay, let's actually try just formatting this a little bit different. I'm going to pull the main dish up here, and I'm going to shorten that a little bit. And the same thing for these side dishes. And I'm going to pull this out a little bit. Do not like how that is doing that. This is just sometimes whenever you're working in Power BI, you're just going to run into issues like this where you just got to play around, figure it out. Maybe better people than me don't do this, but this is definitely how I do it. Okay, I finally got this a little bit more readable just to show you what I just did. I came over here to the x-axis and then down here at layout, and I made the minimum column width or minimum category width as big as possible. So that's how I was finally able to widen these. It took me embarrassingly long. And then I came over to the data labels, which was on this same page. And I chose the inside end position, which put these all on the inside. I changed the color of all of the data labels to white where they would be fairly easily readable. And then I actually filtered just for the macaroni and cheese, and I changed that one to black because the white wasn't very visible on the yellow. But without further ado, we finally have these ready. So let's go ahead and jump to our next visualization. We're almost done with this page, and so we'll try to go through this one quicker after all of that. Just as I did before, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this first one just so we have a lot of this formatting already done for us. And then I am going to do pi. And for this one, just for the funniness of it, or kind of funniness, I'm going to make that a pie chart. Maybe the funnier thing to do would be to make everything a pie chart but this one. Let's go ahead and get rid of those. And we're also not going to need this for this one. And instead of just looking at all of these, I think I'm just going to choose a few that I think are fairly popular. So let's go with pumpkin. We'll see pumpkin. Let's add pecan in there. Let's go ahead and add apple. And we'll add sweet potato. Or actually, that is another orange, and I want to do some colors. So let's do key lime pie in here, actually. So just like we did before, I'm going to come and double click right here and get rid of all of these because all we want is the name of each flavor. So let's go ahead and get rid of these. Okay, that is looking a bit better already. Let's see these detail labels. And let's see, let's just get a percent of total. I think I like that. Yeah, we'll just do percents for this one. See what it looks like there. I don't know about that. Prefer outside, prefer inside. Definitely better on the outside. Then let's come over here, or actually let's come back over here and come to our slices. And again, let's choose all of the colors for these again. I'm gonna choose this orange for pumpkin. Let's go in here and get a nice green for key lime. And again, usually when you're on the job, you're not gonna be spending a ton of time doing these different colors. This may not be the best color in the world, but I'm gonna just go with that for key lime. But whenever I'm working on a project like this, I'm just out here trying to have a little bit of fun with it. So yeah, so you can do whatever you prefer here. We'll choose that for apple. And then for pecan, let's go ahead and just do this brownish color, or yeah, I think that is our best option. And then we'll come over here to the legend. See if we can make this a little bit bigger without destroying the chart. And that is looking okay. Let's go ahead and put this in right here. And I actually kind of like how that is. I'm kind of liking how that looks right now. I want to play around with this a little bit. Let's see what that looks like there. Nope, I hate that. Let's put that back. And then for this last bit, I was thinking of putting maybe just a little bit of other data. Again, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this so I have the formatting, but I'm going to change this to one of these cards. And it actually already did what I was wanting to do. I just was going to put number of survey respondents. So let's go ahead and put that. If I can spell that correctly. Did we figure out that was spelled with an E earlier? I think we did. And let's come over here to format. Let's come to the label. Let's bold that. Make that a little bit bigger. Let's see, what do I want to do with this? Could kind of it's kind of ugly. Let's see. We'll do number of survey respondents, and let me see if there's anything else that I want to put on this. Number of survey respondents. I don't know yet if I like this format yet. And no, I don't. I'm going to hit Control Z a couple of times to get this back. Again, this is just kind of how I go about this, is I just play around with it until I get it looking like how I like. Again, sorry for the whiplash of going through this pretty quickly. Come on, let's get that back where it is. I do want this survey respondents, but I didn't know if I wanted it to be its whole thing. Maybe I could break this survey respondents down by something. Let's see, maybe if we make this a table, and let's see if we put age here. Okay, this might be a fun thing to add on right here. So let's add this little table right here that is going to have the demographics of all of our different ages, and it also gives us this total right here, which is exactly what we are looking for. Let's see, by age, and then let's sort that ascending. Okay, so we can see we have 33 people that didn't respond to this. So let's come over here. Let's look at our style presets. There's default, there's minimal, bold header, do not like that. That's not too bad. Okay, that's Let's see, I'm just going to go with this default. That's honestly what I use most of the time at work, but I'm going to make these values a bit bigger and take up a little bit more of the space. Let's come over here to these column headers. See, I kind of like that. I don't really want a scroll here. I think that is unnecessary. Let's see, I'm going to actually change this back to how we had this. Let's come down here. Let's make this bold as well. Add that. And then instead, in case somebody wants to filter this, which actually, let me delete that. I'm going to copy this and paste this so we have the same formatting. And then I'm going to change this to a filter. And then we're going to add age as a filter. And I think this will be maybe a better way of showing this. Let's see. Okay, I'm liking how this is looking a lot better. So we'll add this right here. Let's come over here to the title and just and we can get rid of this slicer header right there. And then last thing, do slicer settings, selection, show select all, and then that way you could select all of these. Maybe we want to look just at the younger groups, but I actually really like this now. So we can see the number of total respondents, we can see how many there are for each age group, and it also filters all of the rest of these other charts for whatever age group that we're looking at. So I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. Sometimes whenever you're playing around with a Power BI, it's just seeing whatever works for it. And for now, I'm very happy with what this looks like. We can see a good breakdown of the most popular foods, the most popular side dishes. You all were probably screaming this at the computer, or the phone, but here we are going to put favorite pie. Then also right here, one other tweak. Let's make this title a little bit bigger. Oh, that is not going to let me. Okay, that isn't going to let me make it any bigger, but I think it at least does what we are wanting it to do. Okay, sweet. So I'm pretty happy with how this is looking. So with that, let's go ahead and jump on to the next one. And again, so we don't have to reformat, another thing I like to do is just right click and click duplicate. And then here is when we're going to do a little bit more of our age analysis. And since we kind of took a long time on that first page, I am going to go through this one a little bit quicker. So the interesting things that I think age would bring into this, I think, have you ever attended a Friendsgiving would be super interesting by age. I think how far will you travel for Thanksgiving might be interesting if we can get that looking good. So let's go ahead and play around with this. Let's try a matrix. Let's get rid of this main age group. that main food groups. Let's add an age here. Do you celebrate Friendsgiving? Or do you celebrate Thanksgiving? Let's change this right here to age. Do you celebrate Thanksgiving? Now let's play around with this a little bit. I'm actually going to come right here and click on this arrow. I'm going to click on this arrow. I'm going to do show value as and show value as row total. So that way we can see this as the groups go. And interesting, this isn't quite as okay, this is the Thanksgiving one. I keep thinking it's the Friendsgiving one. Okay, that makes sense. Let's come over here to title. Do you celebrate Thanksgiving? Okay, sweet. I like that. Let's go ahead and get rid of some of these others. This might be more of a tabular analysis. So let's come up here. Let's try to make these a little bit bigger. Row headers. Do that so I can make the ages stand out a little bit more. Let's see here. Okay, I kind of like that. Okay, sweet. Now let's go ahead and copy this and paste down here. And next, I am going to change out, do you celebrate Thanksgiving? And I'm going to find the Friendsgiving one. To do that, I'm going to pull this out and I can see it right here. Okay, sweet. And I guess a lot of people did not answer that question. So let's take the no answers out of this. So select all, get rid of these blanks. And there we go. And if we look at this data, we can see exactly what I thought. The younger people have attended Friendsgiving more. I still have this named as Thanksgiving, whereas the older people are less likely to have done that. I'm going to go ahead on both of these charts, and actually I'm going to show you something different. If we want to do something on the whole page, to do that, we can drag one of these column names over to filters for the page, and I'm going to get rid of this blank for this page because I just want to look at this age analysis, and the blanks really aren't helping me out all that much here. Let's come over here and say, have you attended a Friendsgiving? And a little bit better, a little smaller than that. Okay, sweet. I'm going to actually choose both of these. I want to make these values a little bit bigger. Okay, sweet. So we have these right here. Do you celebrate Thanksgiving? Do you celebrate a Friendsgiving? I think another one of these that would be super cool. And again, this is a little bit of a boring page. Maybe we'll play around with this in a little bit, but I would be interested to see how far do you travel for Thanksgiving. Let's see how that is worded. How far will you travel for Thanksgiving? Let's come back over here to where we'll choose our columns, get rid of that. How far will you travel? Now this is where we get into a little bit of formatting issues. So let's pull this up here. Okay, this is actually one of those issues, like I said, where I would open back the Excel. So I'm going to open up the Excel and I am going to manually change all of these and make them shorter names. So that way I don't have to have this chart taking up the whole page. Okay, so I'm just going to come over to this column and I'm going to filter for each one of these one at a time. There are 4 of these. How far will you travel? Let's say none for this one. So I'm going to do none. And don't know why that isn't going all the way down, but let's just drag this down manually because we are in the Stone Age and the double click isn't working. Next, let's come to Thanksgiving. Okay, let's unfilter that. Let's go to Thanksgiving is local, and let's see, same town. And we learned our lesson already, so I'm just going to manually scroll down here. If we had tens of thousands of rows, that would be as fun, but for this, it's just worth doing whatever works. And we want to filter on this again. Let's do fly or drive hours for this. Let's see, what was this other one? What was this other one before? Let's see. Okay, this one is the longer out of town, so I'm gonna put way out of town. And let's go ahead and pull this down here. And then we'll unfilter this. Let's filter it one more time. And then for this one, short drive out of town. Okay, I think this should make it a little bit more manageable. I can always come back here if I need to, but let me just go ahead and pull this down. And then I'm going to just save this as it is. I closed out of that. And then to refresh my data, once I've changed the Excel, I'm just going to come up here and click on refresh. Okay, now this is looking way, way better, so I'm very glad that I did that, and now we can finally play around and see what we want to do to this. And I like that this already put it in the order that we are looking for. So we can see, so looking at this data, the youngest group is the more likely to go a little bit out of town, whereas 45 to 59 is most likely to go way out of town. That's kind of interesting. And let's see if there's any other interesting. They also were the least likely to respond. So let's go ahead and take that out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to format that as such. I'm going to mess with these row headers a little bit. Okay, sweet. This one isn't necessarily as pretty, at least for now, but I think I'm going to kind of just leave this as it is. Let's see, let's go ahead and make this a bit bigger. I'm going to make this title a bit bigger so it's kind of the right size for this chart. Then I'm going to go a little below halfway of it. Now let's go ahead and make these the same size. Okay, sweet. I think that is good. And now I'm just going to kind of do a final look over of this and make sure everything is looking okay. Some things like this, I wish that was showing up a little bit more. Yeah, but this is just being really finicky. It's kind of a lot of information for one page. I wish this was showing a little bit more. Let me mess around with these data labels. I don't know if it's even going to let me change these. No, it's not. Oh well, but I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Again, I would probably play around with this a little bit more, but I don't want this video to last longer than it's already going to last. But we have all of this interesting data about what foods are preferred. We have the most common main dishes, the favorite side dishes, as well as the favorite pies. You can come over here and filter for different age groups. You can if you hit control, you can filter for multiple at a time. You can come in up here and click select all. And then over here, if we want to look at different age groups, I actually think this is super interesting. We can see all of the differences. Again, I think maybe the most interesting out of all of these is the Friendsgiving one, because the younger you are, the clear trend is it's more likely that you've attended a Friendsgiving, which is what I would have thought. And I also realized I never changed this title. So that's super fun. But that is what it's like being a data analyst. You just got to fix things as you see them. How far, let's get where you can see that. You travel for Thanksgiving. I'll take out that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Let me close these so you can see a little bit better. But we have all of this right here. Again, this really cool food information. We can come right here and see this Thanksgiving age analysis. And again, I'm very happy with that. And again, you feel free to comment with things that you would have done differently. Again, I'm not the best Power BI person ever, but I built a ton of Power BI dashboards on my job as a senior data analyst, as well as my previous 2 data analyst roles. And this is genuinely the format that I work with. Usually I'm working with more strategic data, so there is kind of a clear vision of where to go with this. This is more of a fun passion project, so I just tried to make it a little bit colorful. I tried to answer questions that seemed interesting to me. So if you would have done something differently, that's perfectly fine. If you saw me make mistakes, I promise you I make a bunch of mistakes on the job as well. All you can do is learn from your mistakes. Don't make the same ones in the future, but there's always going to be new mistakes to make. But anyway, if you stuck around for this whole video, I really appreciate you checking this out. I hope you followed along with the project and through all of the different issues that I had doing the project, but hopefully you learned a little bit about Power BI, about building dashboards, or maybe even Microsoft Excel. And if you're someone who wants to become a data analyst, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. I post a brand new video every single week, helping you become the best data analyst that you can be. And with that, I'll see you next week.